My name is Medard Delcourt, and I am a vampire. Episode 2: Hunger. What followed my transformation is a blur. I remember wandering through the forest near the battlefield. I had to get away from that awful place. The dragon was already gone. No words of advice or instruction. I was left alone, my mouth still burning. A freshly born monster. At some point I came back to enough of my senses to realize I couldn't return home. Not after what I'd done. So I decided to make for Italy. My father was Italian, hence our family name, so I hoped I could hide in the anonymity offered by a large city. The memory of my travel is quite vague, though I do remember the occasional wanderer, the solitary farmer. All served to fill the intense hunger that begged to be sated. Eventually I found myself in the hustle and bustle of the city of canals, Venice. I was hoping I could feed on the random peasant or rogue, someone that no one else would miss. I survived on stragglers and drunks that I could lure into alleys, but I knew that I couldn't keep up that kind of feeding without drawing unwanted attention sooner or later. Luckily, I found the perfect feeding ground. I took a job near the Doge's palace as an executioner. Venice was booming, and that made it a hotbed for theft and other illegal vices. The citizens were very concerned about a proper burial, but a criminal. No one looked too closely at how I executed them or how their remains were buried. I stayed there for years, living out of a small hovel near the dungeons. I fed on the condemned, trying to quell my hunger. The weight of my new nature felt unbearable. I hated myself, hated what I was, what I hungered to eat. That's when a new hunger began to overtake me. The desire to fight this curse and not lose any more of myself to it. I decided to try and take some part of my life back, find a way to preserve my constantly slipping humanity. I discovered that I had my mother's gift for painting. Before long, I had a small shop set up near the dungeons where I sold my art. It was the closest I had felt to my family, to my old self, in years. I had something that almost passed for happiness. That's when I saw Rosella Lusa for the first time. I'll never forget that moment. Rosella came to the dungeons, fair-skinned and raven-haired, to see her betrothed. She was engaged to a local merchant who had displeased the Doge in some way, though it made no difference to me. I never really cared why my meals came to me. But Rosella, she seemed to walk straight out of a dream. She didn't appear as distraught over the imprisonment of the merchant, whose name I can't remember, as I had seen in others whose lover was meant for execution. Over time, her visits to him became shorter, but she stayed longer and longer each time to talk to me. I discovered that hers was an arranged marriage and that she held no real love for the merchant. The week before he and Rosella were to be married, he was caught stealing from the Doge. The more she talked and opened up to me about her life, the more I found myself drawn to her, desiring her, a new, fresh hunger, not for blood or flesh, but for her. One evening I invited her to my painting workshop. I had wine, cheese, and prosciutto prepared on a wooden board. The paintings were aglow with soft candlelight. We talked and ate and drew closer together. The more I was near her, the less my other cravings occurred. I felt I had finally found a way to be human. I was a fool. It was the day of the merchant's execution. I told Rosella to stay away, saying that I wanted to save her the pain of watching him die. She agreed and went home. That night I took great pleasure in causing the merchant to suffer. This would be no quick death. I would feast and toast my new relationship with his blood. It was about half an hour into his torture when the door opened. Rosella had decided to come to his execution, a after all. She found me, mid-meal, the merchant, still barely alive. She stifled a terrified scream and fled into the darkness. I stood, gripped in fear, horrified that I was about to lose her, about to lose everything. I went to her house, but she wasn't there. I must have just missed her, for when I returned home, I was greeted by a sight that froze me in terror. My shop, my art, my home was being consumed by flames. And there, before the conflagration, was the tear-stained face of Rosella. As I approached, she grabbed a burning piece of wood and brandished it like a torch at my face. She called me a monster and threatened to expose me to the Doge, to everyone. Fear, anger, betrayal. So many emotions flooded through me at once, and I gave in to the worst of them all. Hunger.